Come on. Come on, YouTube. I believe in you. Come on. You should be broadcasting. Yeah. Alright, we are picking up more noise than usual, so give me 2 seconds. Yeah, that's a bit more droning than we're used to. Settings. Settings. Let's see if that does anything. Yeah, that's a bit more droning than... settings. Let's see if that does anything. Oh, that's much better. Okay. Good evening, all you people. Hopefully I do not fuck up the audio with the new settings here, even though I had to wait forever for YouTube to get synced. Hopefully I do not fuck up the audio with the new settings here. And, oh, the frame rate is garbage. Hold on. I gotta switch this. We are not streaming correctly. Alright. Let's see if the frame rate isn't in the toilet now. That'd be really great if the frame rate weren't garbage. You okay, darling? Sure.
You want me to just crank it real loud and just overpower your stuff?
Sure. Get the cops called on us. It'll be fun. Whoop whoop, sound the police.
Just overpower your stuff.
Sure. Get the cops called. Alright. Alright, yeah, I don't know why it's droning so bad. I didn't fuck with the settings. And my computer's not making any more noise than usual. Hope I didn't fuck up my mic. That would be bad. Because then I'm going to blow a bunch of money on a very expensive mic. So I can be 10% better. Alright, so good evening, people. We should have a pretty decent show tonight. I actually have all the plots done before the show went live because I'm a professional. You know, Lockefox, consummate professional. So let's see if we can get those viewer numbers up. Not bad. Be sure to spam all of your favorite channels. And if the audio is particularly terrible, please speak now, or I'm gonna be really sad when I try to fix it in post. That drone was weird, like really weird. So, Bobby, this is live from Jita right now. Um, yep. Pre-recorded. Pre-recorded? You think I have the time to pre-record? Yep. Pre-recorded. Wow. Shite. Okay. No, that's really annoying me. So let me see if I can. Mike? Yes. Pretty please? Mike? Yes. That's weird. It usually doesn't pick up this bad. Please? We may just have to do that and be loud. Yes. Huh. That's really annoying. Yeah. Yeah. Wonder if my pump's going bad. Oh, I bet that's what it is. Okay. I know what the noise is. I think my computer's making a low pitch hum that I did not realize before. So my pump might be going bad. That would be cool. Guess on the weekend to-do list is to blow it out and get all the dust bunnies out. So troubleshooting with Lockefox. So let's see. We're just going to try and make sure that I'm loud enough and we don't hear the hum, because I will just let compression take care of it, because that is what professionals do, is use the tools. And so yeah, the big news this week, if you guys weren't following on Twitter or on the Discord, which you should totally join, links are down below. I do love talking with you guys. Is that I did a new giant release of our API so that you can pull predictions. So there's a big asterisk on there. Let me go pull it up. GitHub. Desktop. So went ahead and released Prosper API. And there's docs and tests and all this goodness. Big ol' 1.0 release. Like, I'm a real professional, like I said. 1.0. Hell yeah. And so the features here is we went ahead and refreshed the OHLC endpoint, which is what powers candlesticks down at Eve Mogul. And anybody can pull from this endpoint. That's totally fine. It's sort of designed to be plugged into traditional TA tools. It basically just takes Crest and does the processing for you. So it's really not that big a deal. But Profit is the special endpoint that will generate up to 120 days of forecast based off of 2 years of Crest data. And so to be able to use it, I did have to add API keys, because this thing bombs my CPU when it runs. It has a caching layer on it, so things won't go completely sideways. But the there's some weirdness about the way Flask works. That so between multi-threaded performance on Flask and the fact that this is a machine learning algorithm that will crit my machine for 10 seconds. This is something I had to put behind an API key. So I went ahead and distributed them to fellow market devs. So the guy at Adam for Eve got one. The guy from Eve Mogul got one. Jeronica sent one to Probagbear. One to Zeissweiss, who does Element 34, Element 42. I can never remember the name of his Element 43. Sorry, Element 43. And if you are a dev who knows how to use a REST endpoint, then do drop me a mail and I can generate you an API key. But if you are going to use it on Google Docs, I'm just going to tell you right now, it's not a good idea. The data is a little bit too big for Google Docs. It's not impossible, it's just unpleasant. And the other half of that is that on a fresh call, it can take up to 15 seconds. And I don't know if that will play nice with the timeout time on Google Doc. So no Google services for now is sort of the way it is. And I do have a blog in the pipe that I'm trying to get published. But I was hoping to get some integrations done at some other sites before I did that, so I could show you guys, like, okay, here's the data, and here's where you guys can use the data. Go check out these sites that let you work with it, rather than me. I'm just data science guy who can put the data out raw, essentially. So, and then to keep talking about DevFleet stuff for just a second, I want to thank, let me look up his name so I don't fuck it up. I want to thank Toby on the Discord who is putting together a pull request for one of the crons. Has got me thinking again. Oh man, itchy nose. Has got me thinking again about our data pipeline. I tried to solve this back in September or August or something, and I thought it was a really good idea at the time, and the more I've cooked on it, the more that I think that my idea was bad, which is fine. This is why we do the project that we do, is that I'd rather get my stinkers out at home than at work, so I can look like a turbo genius when I go to my real job. And oops.
Our data pipe.
Shut up. And so I've been cooking on it, and one of my senior engineers was, I think he was half trolling me, but it wasn't a bad idea, is that maybe we should just go full MongoDB. There are some challenges with doing that. Chief among them are, we give up easy exploration. It's not a processing bomb, thankfully. We would actually probably get better performance in what we do with it, how we actually use it. Especially since then it can go multi-threaded, and it can just eat just truckloads of RAM, and we can start using things like, well, I don't have to write them, but God, what are they called? It's the Hadoop thing. Can't remember what they call it. Anyway, not important. MapReduce. So we could do MapReduce on the data and probably get it out a whole lot faster. And it means that we reduce the input and output complexity of the system because everyone, I don't have to do any schema design. The schema design is just, there is no schema design. They're all document records. So I'm interested in doing this, except that I need to make sure, I've been trying to get more reading done so that I can, my worry comes from a test side, in that the thing I am most concerned about is data integrity, is that I want to make sure that I'm not missing ticks when scrapers should be running, that the data doesn't all of a sudden get filled with, since there's no protection on the way in, it's just as possible to write a valid record as it is to write just a giant bullshit blob of JSON, because MongoDB don't care. MongoDB doesn't check any of that. And but there are some other things like we can start doing schema versioning essentially through the data. So for instance, one of the things that kills me is that on here, we'll get back to GDCam. One of the things that kills me is that when I designed the intraday price database, I was an idiot and made it so it basically requires a pivot table every time you go into it to actually get buy and sell data together. And I'm a fucking idiot. I shouldn't have done that. Like, I should have just left it flat and everything would have been better. It would have been way more performant. I'm wasting about 50% of my time doing the goddamn pivot every time I touch that data. So this was stupid on my part. But I could just as easily version the scraper and say, guess what? The data's all there and it's backfilled or whatever. But you're going to select everything that's version whatever, or you're going to put a filter on anything that's pre-version whatever. And that's sort of the nuts and bolts of it. I think it's probably the best, like, this is me talking myself into it, unfortunately. So, I could just be talking myself into a terrible idea. But like so the thing that kills me is that I want to be able to I want it to be easy as fuck to add new data sources. Like that has been my number one goal for almost a year now, is that it takes for goddamn ever to add new data sources. Like, you guys should be able to write scrapers, and I should be able to pay you in Plex for the work. And I continue to fail on that front because even if you knew Python, you don't know my data layer, and that fucks everything up. And this is a failure on my part. So I'm trying to fix it. I'm trying to work through it. Now that I've got the Flask API out there, I am the data set has bubbled to the top of my shower thought list. So I'm hoping sometime in the next 2 weeks to maybe start faffing around with it and hopefully get some stuff together. Like, I've just been trying to read up on NoSQL and try to find the corners and try to find utilities that'll help make my life better. Like, I would like to JSON schema the stuff on the way in, but I'm not sure where to host those JSON schemas. And it might be that I just host the JSON schemas in the MongoDB, so that you go and you call the MongoDB and you say, hey, I want to write you some data. Give me a schema. So I'm going to think about it. And yeah. Also at work we are crunching on a on a similar-ish problem. One of my partners in crime is taking up a query API, which will make it so we can connect everything together with REST rather than with direct PyMongo connections. And as that comes along, like, I should have better shower thoughts because I'll actually be working on it. It's the virtuous cycle sort of thing. So with that, we are a little bit behind schedule. Let me make sure I've got my channels up to the right stuff. Quick rundown before we start. Just an FAQ. The show runs about 45 minutes, and I don't tend to answer questions during the show. If this is your first time, welcome. Do feel free to comment in the chat. That is absolutely encouraged. But I don't tend to answer questions directly during the show. We will have a 30-minute Q&A afterwards, and if you ask questions in chat, and we'll go back over them in the post-show for sure. I try to make it so that no question is stupid, so feel free, whether you are a super noob to a bitter vet, to get your questions ready. Though, just a forewarning, like, what should I buy questions are ones I will not answer well, because my goal is not to help you make a quick buck this week. Well, I mean, the show is there to make a quick buck this week, but is more to teach you what to look for so that you can, continue to feed yourself. Next, all of the plots in the show are generated by custom tools. Links to the sources should be down in the doobly-doo below. We use R to generate all of our plots, just like CCP Quant. And we have a Python backend and data going back a couple of years now, all in SQL and all that good stuff. So I do love talking DevFleet stuff. So if you guys don't come up with questions, I'm going to rant more about DevFleet stuff. Let's see. Last point before we start. Do feel free to get shared with all of our friends. We are here every Thursday, 0300. Well, it's Friday night, 0300 Eve time. That's Thursday night US time. Do join us in our TweetFleet Slack. Do follow us on Twitter. And do feel free to get in touch with me on whatever platform. I do try to answer all of my emails and all of my PMs as they come in. So with that, I'm going to start pressing some buttons. We're going to get this show rolling, and we're going to get you all of the market news. So once again, do please share us. Do please host us on Twitch if you can. Do please tell your corp mates about the best damn market show in Eve Talk by DeLone Wolf. Let me go ahead and press the buttons, and we will get running. Nope, that's not the right button. First, that button. I've only been doing this for 2.5 years. 2.5 years! Good evening, and welcome to the latest episode of the Eve Prosper Market Show. I'm your host, Lockefox. One second. Let's try that again. Good evening, and welcome to the latest episode of the Eve Prosper Market Show. I'm your host, Lockefox, and this is all of the market news you need to know going into the weekend for EVE Online. Let's go ahead and get started where we usually do. talk about some quick show news to the dulcet, relaxing view of the Jita 44 station. I want to thank everyone who is tuned in live on both Twitch and YouTube. We are live every Friday night, 0300 Eve time. That's Thursday night U.S. time. And you can catch us every single week. If you want to follow... Jeez. One second. Sorry, Chris. If you want to follow the show, all you got to remember is Eve Prosper. That'll get you to Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and our blog. And do come and join us on our Discord. Links to join should be down in the doobly-doo below. That is the very best place to get in touch with me. I also want to put a big shout out once again every week to our editor, Chris Mellon, who makes sure that this show gets to you guys on YouTube nice and condensed with all of my faffing about removed, just distilling that down to the best parts. So got to thank him, and you got to go check out his new Minor Metrics show, which, again, links are down in the doobly-doo on how to watch that. Next, I want to thank our... Well, actually, no, before we go on there. Next, I do want to point out, if you guys weren't following us on Twitter this week, I did release a new API. We are now releasing both OHLC feeds for you TA fiends and a profit feed where we try to guess what the next 120 days worth of stuff is going to be. And the news for that is going to be I'm going to have a blog out soon. I'm trying to write it so it's actually interesting. It's super dry. But you guys should be enjoying some much better forecasts from your favorite platforms. I've gone ahead and tried to include as many of the Eve market dev fleet guys as I possibly can in that. So more news as it becomes available. Last, before we get started, I want to thank our patrons directly. They are the ones who keep this show on the air every week, ad-free, no gating. They keep us in server hardware. They keep us in software. They keep me developing the cool tools for you guys, and they make this show, make it so I don't have to justify to my wife what I'm wasting my time on. So I got to thank all of our patrons. Even if you can only throw $1 in the jar, it means a whole ton. If you want to buy me a beer, that is the best way to do so. If you can't support us directly, if you won't support us directly, that is perfectly fine. Do make sure you're getting subscribed, though, because like every good market guy, I like seeing numbers going up and to the right. So do get subscribed. Do follow us on Twitter. Do join our Discord, and do watch the show every week. And do share it with your corpies, because if we all know what's going on, the world will be a better place. So with that, now that I've totally boned my opening and made Chris's life just super difficult, let's go ahead and get right into the show. And we're going to go right into it because CSM is closed, and I know you bitter guys who keep posting in the comments about how bitter you are about CSM and did not vote. Well, too bad voting's closed, so there's nothing more to complain about. Stop complaining about it. We see that Plex has crossed the 1.2 billion mark once again, and hype is high, but volumes are low. As we see the price climb and climb and climb, we still see not a lot going on in the actual units traded. Zooming all the way out, we can see a pretty decent amount of depression here between just a couple weeks ago and now. I think these high prices are keeping people at home and keeping people out of the market. It's extremely hot at the moment and just keeps climbing. Now, just 6 hours before this show started, it was announced that CCP is running a 15% off Plex sale this weekend all the way through, I believe, the start of FanFest. Actually, I think it ends April 2nd, I want to say, and FanFest is the 6th. So this would be a great time to stock up and get some of those high prices. If we zoom all the way in, again, we see we are pretty lean on supply is really the problem going on here. So at 125 billion, this is a great time to be cashing out, to be getting that liquid cash if you're going to work with it. And honestly, so this is the part where I'm going to put my foot in my mouth just whole hog and say that I think this is really the peak. And watch me eat shit and end up the peak is at 1.3. It's a little bit hard to call the peak right now, because between the Plex sale with downward pressure and the pre-FanFest hype with upward pressure, it's kind of hard to figure out who's going to win in that particular argument. Especially since with everybody traveling to FanFest and thinking about FanFest, the activity numbers tend to droop a little bit. We saw something similar during Eve Vegas. So we might be seeing that the low traffic plus the hype is enough to boost the prices up to 1.3 ahead of FanFest, and then once FanFest launches and we actually see the release schedule, have things settle back down. So it's a bit of a weird spot to think, and I still worry that once the Plex split hits, we're still going to be in for a decent dive. So if you're going to be working with the money, I would be seriously weighing the chance to get cashed out. And if you don't need it for Omega status, if you don't need it as its token and you'd rather have the cash, now's a decent time as any to get that cash. I think that we're still in for a sub-billion once the Plex split happens. I expect the Plex split before June 3rd, though I just can't tell you when before June 3rd. And especially with all the new mining platforms that'll come out, I think that's going to bomb cash stocks. So if you're needing cash, if you're looking for something to do in the next 6 weeks, I think this is the chance to cash out on Plex. Again, watch me eat my foot and we get up to 1.3, and I'm sorry if that happens, but this is what the numbers say to me. This is as good as I can divinate given the data. Looking at the rest of the RMT market, we saw a big reset in resculpt certificates as people were looking to boost off of the Aurum, the maybe liquidate some of that spare Aurum, and then dumped real hard afterwards. Not that it's still not breaking my graph at the moment. Zooming in on skill trading, we see that prices are climbing in cost here on the parity line, and profits are staying relatively stable, even dipping a little bit. I did expect that the Rorqual liquefaction was going to subside. We saw that the Rorqual nerf hits and prices took a pretty deep dive and then stabilized. And if we zoom in, we can see that supplies have returned back to their about 1K level. So I would expect positive pressure, especially with how much positive pressure is coming up through Plex. That we're only at 680 and not at 700 is a little bit of a surprise to me. I don't know if this is a great chance to jump on, though, because as you can see, no matter how funny the supply gets and no matter pretty much inelastic to cost, the prices stay pretty stable. So this is in a really hard spot to predict, unfortunately. But it's not a bad chance to buy up some quick buy orders, try to ride some of the Plex instability into the weekend. The This might be a decent hedge against a Plex move, moving from Plex out into skill injectors. That's a little bit more of a risky move, unfortunately, so I wouldn't say that. But yeah, it's weird. I think that they're undervalued at the moment. I just don't know if they're going to pop the way that they really should. Moving on to our market indexes, looking at net trade, we are down basically across the board for all of the extra price rise that we're seeing. Total net trade, as in cost times units moved, has been dropping. We see it also in skill trading as the volumes have shed. We see the things staying steady in the material markets. Despite the nerf, we're actually back to pre-nerf levels, looking relatively stable. And as prices rise, I actually expect this to be just a little bit higher than it is. And the ship numbers keep sagging, and this is starting to get into territory where I'm getting cranky because we're almost sub-Ascension, and I don't really think that with EVE at free-to-play, I would sort of hope that Ascension, the values at Ascension were the floor in this case. I'd like to think that activity levels at Ascension, we have a big discontinuity. The world changed, when the Fire Nation attacked, and get higher activity levels that were this week on ships speaks to how productive people are, how much that is destroying your margins for how productive people are, but I don't think that there's enough demand to soak up all of that supply. Next, looking at the PvP numbers, again, we're seeing things staying weak in the PvP numbers. Not as weak as the ship numbers would make us think. Still a decent number of kills at about 15k a day. Still a decent amount of destruction at about 1 trillion a day. I'd like to see that higher, though. I really think we need to be at 1.2 trillion to really eat the sort of supply we're generating. Actually, I think we need to be up closer to 1.5 trillion, but I don't think anybody is risk tolerant enough to start losing that kind of money. So that's at least where we are. It's weaker than I'd like to see. It's not catastrophic. Destruction drives the market, and without consumption really driving things, I get queasy as a economy guy. Moving on to minerals. Minerals are staying relatively interesting this week. We saw Tritanium peak up to 1.4, and now it is back down to 4.2, and volumes are a little bit anemic. Not really much to say on that front. Supplies are staying steady at the 40 billion mark. We're seeing a big buyout, what this looks like, driving a spike up to 4.5 in the last few hours. So this is not reflected in those graphs yet. I'd be really careful about jumping on this. If you have some 4.0 Tritanium, sell at 4.5, get your 10%. But this I think is, I don't think this can be sustained unless we see a sustained reduction in supply. I think we're seeing at 40 billion units, even at 35 billion units, I expect the price to be closer to 4.25 in the longer term. Next, pyrite, which has been bouncing around 6.0 and 5.5 for the last week, is trending up. In fact, if you were watching miner metrics, this would actually be probably a buy order just by the technicals alone. Zooming in, though, I still think the supplies are pretty hot, and this would be a good chance to get burned, unfortunately. The supply lines are still at 7.5 billion, and I think that we're going to stay in this 5.5 regime going forward. If we see another buyout, we could get to 6, but there's not there's really not enough movement there. You'd have to have somebody do a big buyout of like 2 billion units to really get us up to get us over the 6 line. And it's, again, getting that 10% that I really think is worth speculating on. Like, I don't want to tell you guys to speculate on anything that's sub 10% because you're going to lose 4% to taxes. You're going to lose, you need a 2% buffer for laziness or family emergencies, maybe even more. And then you're just playing with 4 or 5% when you talk about it at the very end. And like, you can make money doing that. I just think that there needs to be some margin in there, and I don't think I don't think there's enough room in Pyrite to play that game. Next, Mexilon, which has been on a tear recently, is subsiding down sub 80, looking almost like another buy here at 80. Ahead of FanFest, this is probably your best chance to get on the train. I would be looking for some opportunistic buy orders down in the 75, sub 75, maybe be playing the buy orders outside of JITA, trying to pick up any of this stuff that's anywhere close to 70 and wait for the presentations at FanFest. We have seen in the past where Capital News spiked Mexilon, and like I said, I think this is your best bet to get on the hype train. And if you don't get on the train this weekend, you're either going to feel like a genius because nothing happens, or you're going to feel like an idiot because you missed out on a great chance to make a free 10%. So this is my advice here. I think there's opportunity to get to 85. Maybe if you're watching this super closely, get to 90, but it relies on the devs talking about capitals and maybe talking about more Sov warfare stuff driving things. And I don't see enough things. Like, it's going to be a coin flip whether that gets to be an opportunity. So in this case, you need as much margin to play with to make your money. So like I said, I'd be aiming for an order as close to 70 as I could get it. Something in a 75 is even a little bit high for jumping in at this point. But again, if you want to jump in, now is the chance to jump in. Isogen, my favorite mineral to shit on, is trending back down to 50, and supplies are coming back a little bit, suggesting that we might get to 52 in the next week or two. But again, I have not liked playing with Isogen for the last 6 months. Like, I shouldn't even talk about it on the show. That I'm just predisposed to believe that Isogen is crap, and I don't have anything nice to say about it. So we're going to move on. Noxium has been interesting the last couple of weeks. Peaking up to 360 has taken back some of those gains. We can see the sort of technical you'd be watching here in this case was this RSI saying that we were too hot too fast, but we've gone ahead and backed off that peak over 360, but we're still in pretty hot territory. Zooming in, we're looking like this is again another coin toss where 50% says that the supplies stay the same and prices rise up to maybe the 375 mark, probably the 370 mark. And if you were buying in this 325 buy order, you might be able to make your margin. Or we get back to the 200 million, we come under the 350 and we stay under 350. So I don't think this is as good a place to speculate. This is a much larger gamble, and I don't think the positives of that gamble are enough to pay off. So I wouldn't jump on Noxium. Next, Zydrine is staying steady right at about 1,000. I think this is people just wanting it to stay high. Please, oh please, don't ruin our Zydrine margins. It'll kill our ISK per hour efficiency. Zooming in, though, we still see extremely high supplies at over 200 million units. And we can see that the buy floor keeps dropping out under the 9.5 mark. So I think this is a reasonably okay thing to speculate in the next couple of weeks. I wouldn't be waiting for anything at FanFest for it. There's a non-zero but very slim chance that the technicals about the drilling platform roids comes out, and that could dump the things either way. Without knowing what the moon roids will be made out of, there is risk that there could be shocks in the high-end mineral supply along with it. I'm kind of hoping that these new moon rocks are more a mixture of intermediate stuff. So you get what I'd love to see is, you frack one of these rocks and you get this stupid mix of like 8 different materials, and some of them reprocessed down to raw. So you get stuff that's like a good vein, and you get just raw dysprosium and raw technetium. And then you get some reacted components in there that would maybe help you fill out 10 or 15% of your reaction chain. And then I'd love another set that needs more refinement, so that you have to like add one more processing step to your chain, and so you might have the chance that you skip a step, and you might have the chance that you add a step on both sides. Would be my perfect world. We'll see if that actually happens. I seriously doubt that. I don't think anybody else other than me is talking about that. So I will just sit on my quiet, lonely soapbox and preach about the way I would be if I were CCP Lockefox. This is what I would do. But there is a non-zero chance that if traditional ABC ores are in these fracked materials, that we could see extra supply come to the market, really trashing this price. So if you're going to play this game, be ready to press sell and get the hell out. I would make sure I would be out of this if we ever drop below 1K, and just nope, we're right the hell out of there. Otherwise, you're playing catch the falling knife, and there's money to be made. Just it's hard, and it's a tough game to play. I wouldn't want to have the general audience here trying to play that game. Next is Megasite, which took a big nosedive this last week, but has been staying steady around 1400. Again, zooming in, we see a big supply glut, and just this wish that the price will stay high with these buy orders crashing through to 1.1K. So again, this is why I tell you guys to get opportunistic buy orders in, is that if you were playing this game and you're saying, okay, well, 1400 is my sell target, and if I move back to, let's say, 12, something in a 1250, and I just put some buy orders there, well, guess what? As we crash through those floors, your buy order gets snatched up, and now you have this much margin to play with when everyone else who's day trading is playing with this little bit of margin. And or even if we go to the worst thing, like they're playing with this really, really thin margin here, and you get to play with the extra margin because you were so smart. So this is why I talk so much about these opportunistic buy orders, because there are some excellent opportunities to get some really big deals in these weak markets and turn them around really quick. And you just have to have the tools set up right. So your order is never supposed to be this top order. It's always down here, and as we crash through it, yours gets fulfilled, you sell up here, you get to make money off of this, where everybody else has to make money off of this. So, TLDR. Next, Morphite is just taking a nosedive. Oh my god. So, this is actually starting to hurt my ego a little bit. That again, I've said this every week. If it's sub 10K, you should buy it. But now we're at 9K and we're still falling, and supplies are staying steady, but prices keep tanking. So I hate that I've told people to buy in at 9.8 or 9.5, and you guys are way up here and losing money and negative net worth for all of this long-term saving for a rainy day thing. This is really starting to piss me off when it comes to the Tech 2 market, is that this is indicative in my book that we really need some large-scale war, that we're just not seeing the Tech 2 consumption on the same level as the generally static supply. Even with the Rourke boost, we stay steady at 9 million units. And I know, before you start writing that mean comment in the chat, is that I do know that Rourkes can't mine mercroxite, but the extra supply, like, we haven't seen extra supply, quote unquote. We just see this slump in demand, and there's just so much of this product getting churned out and not enough things eating it. And that just depresses the crap out of me. And this is what has me worried for the moon mining, is that I don't see how they reduce the overall supply, given that they're going to make it a more active system. Like, by definition, you would at least have to hit the, like, so if a money moon makes, let's say, 2 billion a month, and that's a really conservative estimate. Money moon makes 2 billion a month, and you don't have to do jack shit to earn that 2 billion a month. You put fuel in it, you come back every couple of weeks to clear stuff up. You make sure that nobody's siphoning your shit. You basically get a free 2 billion-esque right off the bat, zero effort. So your moon mining operation stops on the day that the new stuff launches, and now you have to put active ships out in belts to mine this stuff. So how much do you think that you have to make a month in that? How much do you have to make every... You'd have to make that at least a week to pay for the number of people who have to deal with it. And there just isn't the demand in the Tech 2 markets. So either we have to amp the cost in the material cost in Tech 2, which I don't think is the right answer, or we have to completely trash the supply chain. And I don't think that's really going to be the answer. And I'm super conflicted. I'm not sure. We'll see in FanFest. I'm sure Fozzie's going to prove me wrong, but like we saw the change with Rorquals bring so much more minerals to bear. And that's fine. The Tech 1 mineral picture is a much wider ocean to spread all of that extra supply over. And there's something to be said about having the price of every Tech 1 item thanks to all of this glut of supply. In fact, there's even something to be said for over flooding the market with this stuff so that it soaks up liquidity. But the problem isn't the price. The problem isn't the end of the day price of the thing. The problem is the actual consumption rate of those things. That it doesn't like, I don't really give a shit what the price of something is week over week. What I care is as a producer, am I going to hit my margins? Because no margin, no work. And number two, is that new material going to get destroyed? Because we talk about ISK faucets and sinks, but there are also mineral faucets and sinks. There are moon goo faucets and sinks. And each of these products may not be strict currency, but they do need to be balanced. And I just worry about pumping in a whole bunch of extra supply into these markets and just not having the demand to soak it up. Now, this might be their brilliant idea. This might be Fozzie's master plan, is to cut Tech 2 margins in half and make it so that the difference between a faction cruiser and a Tech 2 cruiser is 20 million instead of 100 million. And okay, fine. Again, that's possible. It's fine. It's just how much, like, we're talking about how many of these units of moon goo are actually consumed on a week-to-week basis, and how much is there actual in moon supply, and you're going to add 20% to the supply chain. It has me worried. It has me worried, and I'm allowed to be worried. That's as a fake space economist. So, with that long-winded rant out of the way, and sorry about people watching this on YouTube after the fact, there was some great talk in the YouTube chat, which should be saved if you go back to the live show. It should be saved on the thing, so feel free to go back and scrub and whatever. But I think it's important to talk about this stuff in sort of a bigger way, so that no matter what market meta you're coming from, you get something from the show. That if you're a producer, or if you're a day trader, or if you're just a PvPer trying to like outsmart your dudes and make a quick buck, like, I want to be able to serve all of you. So I'd rather teach you what to read in the numbers rather than just talk about raw numbers. All right, moving into fuel isotopes. We know that last week I said that we were heading towards an equilibrium point. I believe that equilibrium point is 800. We saw that oxygen just kept on trucking up, so if you bought in, you still get to look like a genius. We still haven't seen the Caldari blocks cut, unfortunately, and that is a little bit concerning. And I really did expect this to crash a lot faster than we've seen, and we've just seen it stay steady and flat. Also, the one I was eating a bit of crow on last week when we broadcast, I said, "Oh yeah, I was actually going to buy hydrogen isotopes just to be a smartass," and it peaked up to 700 and is crashing back down again. Again, my target's 800. Probably 750 is the way we'll end up being. I do expect that the consumption for all these isotopes is going to get leveled, essentially, where we're going to be the base load supply right now is driven by reaction towers running reactions on Caldari ice, because you can fit two reaction chains on one tower, and that goes away as soon as the new structures come out, because now your structure can use rainbow fuel. It doesn't matter what you're going to put in it, as long as you're just getting it for the cheapest price possible. These isotopes will still be used in the moon goo reactions, which is great. I appreciate that. But I expect that to be leveled out across the board. Like, I don't expect to see 3 parts of nitrogen compared to 1 part of everyone else. Like, that just doesn't make any sense. So I still think this is way too high and is in for a crash. So if you were holding on, I'd be selling, get your 900 and walk out. And looking out across the block market, I am glad to see that the margins have started to increase. I was worried a few weeks back. I did my whole rant about stop building fuel blocks. They're not worth your time. And for Caldari blocks, absolutely, get the fuck out of there. Like, burn your blueprints. But everyone else is starting to actually see some stratification in here, pointing to at least some amount of profit to be had. I still don't think I don't think most players should be in these markets, because and I've explained this in a bit in longer detail before, that I would expect anybody who is just coming into industry to be looking for more margin. I'd expect anybody who's a veteran of industry to have something that makes more net margin. And I'd expect the only people who are serious about making fuel blocks in great quantities are getting cut deals along the way, where they're getting cheap isotopes or cheap PI materials. Or they're the sort of people who just don't know how to do accounting and are losing money and don't realize it. So it's getting better. This is a lot healthier than we've seen in a while. So my general advice sort of goes out the window that we're wide enough to actually start talking about it. But the like we were back a few weeks ago, and we were negative margin on some of these items. So yeah, just be careful. Watch your margins every week. Don't just build things blindly, is the moral of the story. Looking in on strontium, we see supplies climbing. Again, nothing to say here. We were expecting, I was hoping that we'd slack a little bit more, but again, doesn't look like anybody's gearing up for Sov War. And looking across to heavy water, we were seeing a downtrend in supply, so we see a lot of a big glut in supply because this stuff was fueling Rorks, and then Rorks got nerfed and supply stayed strong. I still think we're in for an upward price shift in the next few weeks, but I think that's a longer term trend than something spiky. So, oops. All right, moving on to our outliers. Let's start where we usually do in advanced materials. We saw a big spike across the board in moon mats last week, thanks to the drilling changes announced. And the biggest movers for the last week have been these metamaterials. These are ones I do enjoy trading when I am active, but they are extremely touchy. So as you'll see, the margins get super thin and super wide. This is a feast and famine kind of market. Looking here at the photonic metamaterials, same with plasmonic. I kind of expected everyone to be in a rising tides moment since we saw such spikes across the board last week. And there's still a lot of hype in the moon markets, but the prices have basically set where they're going to be. I was expecting, so what I expected is that we'd see a big rush in, everybody buying in, realizing that they overbought, and a big rush out, in one side of the revolving carousel and out the other. And we didn't end up seeing that. We're seeing people holding their bets, and there's probably opportunity to play again during the FanFest streams. So if you are stuck at home and looking to make some iskies while you bitterly lament the fact that everyone else is having more fun than you, this might be the markets to be watching over the FanFest streams. But I expect it to be hot and fast. So next, PI materials. We said a few weeks ago that you should have jumped in ahead of the moon stuff. And as we can see, prices are up. This is an off-ramp, in my opinion. If you guys bought in for a short term, now is not a bad chance to get out. Do keep in mind that if you are holding for the longer term, I would be holding for the actual release of the drilling platforms rather than just jumping out here at a high point. It really has more to do with your liquidity than your returns. I'm just telling you it's a good chance to cash out. It's not the chance to cash out. Next, tactical destroyers have been interesting the last couple of weeks. We featured the Hecate last week, spiking up a good 20 million a unit. And now we're seeing the Jackdaw see similar popularity. Not really sure why. I haven't seen anything in particular pointing to more tactical destroyer use. So this is a little bit weird in my books. I know there were some messes with nanoribbons, but this doesn't look material cost driven. This looks meta driven. So if somebody wants to go throw comments about how I don't know how to fly ships anymore, this would be the place to do it. Next, the Onyx is diving down, and this one's actually a really decent buying opportunity. Be very, very cautious on your volume, because we're talking about 14 or 15 sold a day. But this is, again, the pattern I've talked about in the past, where we see a big spike, industrialists rush in, they then end up having to eat their profits. And this is not a bad chance to buy in a few extra units as the prices fall. Now, again, volumes are super thin on the heavy interdictors, so don't go gun-ho. Don't buy like 100 of these stupid things. Just be sure if you buy onesie twosie, you can be in and out, make your 10 or 15%, and look like a genius, because this should snap back pretty quick. Next, the Roke is doing something similar, but since it's not Tech 2, not the same. I think we're diving under. I think this is diving steeper than the material costs, so this might be a chance to buy in a couple of units. Again, only about 15 sell a day, so don't get too crazy on this stuff. Just interesting to see us dive so low. Next is on the fitting markets, the energized adaptive nanomembrane 2s were super hot. Looks like somebody bought out the market, and prices have been high, but they should be trending back to equilibrium. I'd be watching for a double dip here, where we might see an extra spike into the weekend, because there may be some funniness about the moon mats that bubbles through, but I don't know if there's enough there to really make your 10%. It's a little bit of a gamble, but if you wanted to buy up a few, the market's pretty big, so at the very least you could move it somewhere else and probably make a quick buck. And then I believe last one we're going to look at this week is the standard blue pill booster. Love me some drugs, as you guys all know, and still a little bit worried with the news on the new structures that reactions are going away, which means drugs are going to have to be rebalanced, and haven't seen any news about drugs being rebalanced. So this has me a little bit a Twitter, but looks like somebody went completely nutso, bought out the market, and blue pill is hot as hell at the moment. Moving on to our prediction review. Looking at dysprosium from last week, we saw the big buyout on the news in the dev blogs. Prices staying steady, supply staying steady. This is the thing I didn't expect, is that I expected us to go down and back up to 3 million units. That million units didn't show up, so the prices stayed high. I think there's chance that this could drop, so I'd be putting some real opportunistic buy orders down in the 65K, maybe in the 60K range. Because if bad news comes over FanFest, again, we should see big opportunities to grab up cheap stock. But like, those are some super opportunistic orders, and I don't know if I'd want to have that money sitting in escrow more than I absolutely have to. Platinum was another weird one. We saw a big buyout because everyone was looking at the top and the bottom. No one was looking in the middle, and supplies are eking back thanks to pretty regular supply chains. Prices are tracking back down to the 5K mark. I'm wondering if we'll oversupply to the 10 million mark, but I seriously doubt it. I think we'll just stay steady where we are. And then last, I didn't cover this last week, but we were talking about Anshars in Burn Jita spiking really hard when nobody else did. They have they have leveled off in price, but have been spiking up an extra, almost $1 billion. But that's just because they're jump freighters and they're super expensive. So still interested to see that Rhea's just aren't really dragging out either with all the other changes. It sure seems to me like Rhea's are kind of a flop at the moment, but again, I don't have the calculators open to really tell you what the real price of those things are. And rounding off our reporting, let's talk about violence. List looks pretty normal week to week, as we expect. Not a lot of difference in the list of items. A little hot on the Macarials this week, but I didn't see prices really spike on Max, so take them or lose them. I might have just forgot to look at it, so if I got that wrong, do feel free to send me hate mail about it. Next, hot systems, not a lot to talk about. Amamake, GE TAC 8, and Nenamalia are rounding out our picture this week. And zooming out all the way to the regional level, Ketch and Hematar is actually a little bit interesting this week. We usually don't see that chunk of space very active, but I want to say that's where Amamake is. See, I don't know my map, so again, geez, this guy doesn't even play this game. Anyway, I want to thank everyone who tuned in live. This has been your Eve Prosper Market Show. I've been your host, Lockefox. If you want to tune in live, all you got to do is remember Eve Prosper. Get subscribed to us on Twitch and YouTube, and we are on the air at 0300 Friday nights, Eve time. That's Thursday night U.S. time. Do get followed. Do get subscribed. If you want to chat with us off the air, if you enjoy the show, if you want to send me a piece of your mind, do so through our Discord. Links to join should be down in the doobly-doo below. I am there. It's the very best place to get in touch with me. It's the best place to keep track of code changes and price alerts and all the other market shit posting that goes on there. I want to thank once again our editor, Christopher Mellon, who gets us edited for you YouTube guys every week so you guys can enjoy the show in a slightly less rambly version. And I want to thank our patrons who help keep this show on the air. It helps us keep servers running. It keeps our licenses paid. It makes this show possible. It means I don't have to do ads. It makes it easy for me to be here for you guys week over week. If you get value out of the show and you want to show us some appreciation, the Patreon is the very best place to do so at patreon.com/EveProsper. And last, if you can't support us monetarily, that is completely fine. Absolutely understand. Do get subscribed, though. Do get your courtmates to subscribe. Do get us shared around so we can keep seeing those numbers move up and to the right. I do want to thank everybody who is subscribed on YouTube because we finally crossed the 3K mark. And to be completely honest, I didn't think we'd hit that milestone. I know it's tiny. I know it's like I am minuscule in the land of YouTube, but the fact that we can gather 3,000 space nerds to talk about a fake economy in the hardest game, the second hardest game, let's give Dwarf Fortress its due, that we can get that many people this interested in such a weird topic just absolutely floors me. So I got to thank all of you guys who subscribe. We're close to 1,000 on Twitch, and we're close to 1,000 on Twitter, but getting 3,000 on YouTube really does mean a lot. So thank you, everybody who tunes in. Thank you, everybody who tunes in live. Thank you, everybody who tunes in after the fact. Thank you for everybody who writes mean comments in YouTube. Without you, I wouldn't be here. So thank you again, everyone. We will be back next week. Same channel, same time, just ahead of FanFest. Be sure to keep your eyes on the news and go make a truckload of money. I've been your host, Lockefox. This has been the Eve Prosper Show, and I will see you all next week. All right. That button. Thank you, everybody tuned in live. If you're just tuning in now, we do 30 minutes of Q&A after the show, which starts now. I want to thank Bobby. I want to thank Bobby on YouTube, who was pointing out that the tactical destroyer use is up in nullsec, out in Syndicate and Cloud Ring. So thank you. Let's see. I'm glad that you guys enjoy the rambling. I guess I've built a brand for myself. Can you fast talk about the price of Plex predictions? I think that now's a good chance to get out at 125. There are odds that we can get to 1.3, but I don't think we can go much higher than 1.3. And do keep in mind that it is going to tank as soon as the Plex split comes out. So if you're looking to get cashed out, if you're going to need the liquidity, now is the time to cash out. If you are using it as a wealth store, I have a hard time telling you to cash out if that's the case you're using it for, because that requires more active management than just sitting on a pile of gold in your backyard. And I think that if you're going to be active about it, you sell at 1.3, you buy sub 1.1, you hold it until the fall, and you aim for a 2 billion-esque, you pray for a 2 billion-esque Omega status. But it's risky. If it's a long-term wealth store, I wouldn't pay the fees on it. Yeah. I'm hoping, or I wouldn't pay the fees on it. Oh, I think it was my side drive here that was giving me that noise. And Jagles Truck says hi. If you're looking for long-term wealth store, the real temptation I have is to move it from Plex into skill injectors. They've been really steady, and I think it's a decent hedge given the spike in prices. But I don't know. I'm a little conflicted about moving positions from Plex into injectors. Like, I'd be happy that if I were stocking Plex to also stock injectors. But I get a little woozy because there's just no other like index fund to invest in. There's nowhere else to park your money in a long-term way that doesn't feel stupid. Like stockpiling materials just makes it really hard to work out. Like, you'd have to be mixing materials in a way that I just don't frickin' get it. But I'm going to graphs. Let's go to the graphs. Button. I mean, the net value of trade has stayed relatively stable over time. We've seen that post-ascension we're higher than we were pre-ascension, but like looking at this, I don't see anywhere to make a mix of items that really benefits you. Like, looking at this general market line, maybe there's a way to mix it. But looking at ships, like if you were going to do ships as a wealth store, oh my God, you'd be eating your hat right now. It'd be way negative and it'd be way worse than playing Plex. And though Plex prices are unstable, the net value of that Plex continues to hold. So I totally expect that the net value of this is going to skyrocket back to the ascension levels here, even if the price starts to dive, because I expect the volume traded to make up for it. So yeah. All right, so David is asking, what would you suggest as a good commodity to get into trading with 1 to 5 billion ISK starting capital? I'm interested into getting trading, but hesitant to start into a commodity with my savings. So, the secret we're looking for when we're trading is margin. Margin is your buffer. You want percentage margin getting into a market, right? Because if you go in and you see 20% in something, even if that's the best day, even if things are going super well and things come down to 15%, you've still identified something that is much more positive than many of the other opportunities. And so the best way to think about how do I get the margin that makes it worth my time is to start stacking things. So where buying and selling in JITA is a tough racket, and everything stays pretty steady at the 4%, 5%, and maybe you can get to 10% if you're playing some of the volatility up and down. What you also can do is use markets like Dodixie and Amar to help add a few percentage points to your margin. If you guys give me a minute, and if my notes are actually there, like I'm going to feel like a turbo genius if stuff is where it belongs. It's not in there. It's in... Nope. So I had a whole set of these things. Scraps. Nope. Bear with me. I have a point. I promise I have a point. I'm just unorganized. Wonder where I put it. I had shared it. Plot archive? Oh well, I can't find it. I suck. So, geez, I need to go save it somewhere not stupid because I always want to look it up and I can never find it. So the point I wanted to make is that if you move stuff between the hubs, you can make extra margin, and that's not a bad way to make an extra buck. The ones I have made money in are things like the advanced material market. There's something to be said for some of the high-end minerals moving around, and for some of the popular ships moving around. So things like Macarials and Rattlesnakes and Vexor Navy issues, I think are made especially better when you move them around because they're just so popular that I don't know if the remote hubs can really keep up. So you can add another 2 or 3% into the into the market. And then even better is if you have a captive market like in low sec or null sec, you can even add more margin and be sure of the products you're selling because you know the doctrine of everybody there. So leverage your competitive advantage, make your quick buck. Yeah, that's my advice on that front. Thank you, Mr. Strats, for the auto host. Yeah, and like I said, you move them to other hubs because the margins are going to be better, and you can protect those investments by offloading your hauling step. Like this stuff really shines by basically saying, okay, well, I'm just going to eat one day between when it goes in and when it comes out. Like I'll buy it one day, I'll put it in a stupid contract, Red Frog will ship it. The reason you do that is collateralized, and it's not your labor, it's somebody else's, and it's dirt fucking cheap for the privilege. Like even as prices have risen over the last few years, it's still a fucking steal to move your stuff in those markets. So you eat a day because of the transport cost, but what you get is that day buys you that extra margin. And additionally, one other pro tip, life hack there, is that Thursday tends to be the best day to buy. Prices tend to be the weakest on a Thursday night. It's kind of why we do the show when we do it. And then you can go sell into the weekend. So you can use that weekend warriorness. So you make sure your buys are done Wednesday and Thursday. You load up your haulers. You send them out to the four corners in Dodixie and Amar, and maybe some jump freighters out to hotter spaces if that's where you're living, and you sell it on the weekend for your extra. That the Thursday thing grabs you 1 or 2%. The moving grabs you 2 to 5% depending on the market. And playing with the buy orders means that you basically have this slow trickle of items coming in, and you just sort of, as it sort of funnels in, you push it out, and you just sort of play it the easy way. You let go of the idea that you're going to sell 1,000 units of something is kind of, I guess, the other pro tip here is that you're going to put up buy orders that say, okay, well, I want at most this many units, or I want this many units plus 10% as a maximum volume, because the thing that hangs early traders is you see margin and you forget volume, and so you see some lovely, delicious 40% margin or something crazy, and your eyes turn into dollar signs, and you go buy up a whole truckload of these things and realize that they only sell 2 a day. And in the meantime, you're sitting there with your money all locked up, fighting the one other guy who's selling these things, and you're 0-1-isking to get those 2 or 3 sales a day, and you just are like, fucking kill me. Whereas if you balance out the volumes and you say, okay, well, I'm gonna go trade in something with a 8% or 10% or 15% margin instead, and yeah, I might lose some weeks and get 4% margin, but I know that I can sell 1,000 units of this stuff, and so I'll buy up 100 of these, and I'll just play in the middle so that my buy orders get filled. I don't have to compete with the 0-1-isk guys. I'll just play in the middle between the big guys who are doing their pissing matches, and I'll be in and out in such a way that I get to cash my money while all of them are complaining on fucking Jabber about my markets. So I think volume is the real key to make sure you stay balanced. So do keep an eye on total units sold, and make sure to stay under that line, or else you're going to be stuck fighting a lot of 0-1-isking, and nobody wants to do that. That sucks. It's not worth it. And Joe Webb, not a problem. Again, you need to PM me when you go online so that I can host you, because yeah, I get bloops. I host your streams. I'm trying to get more people, trying to get some more spotlights on more economic content, because things have got a little too quiet for my feelings. We've been seeing Rodin has been streaming, Joe Webb has been streaming, and oh, there's one more, isn't there? I am forgetting somebody's name, and I'm going to feel like an asshole for it. But yeah, there's some more content coming up, and I want to support the other guys in the sphere because, well, I mean, Chris doesn't do his live. Get subscribed to Chris, absolutely, but I like to see more live shows. So let's see. More questions. More questions, or we're going to go into dev fleet talk. Minor Metrics is awesome. I'm not saying anything bad about Minor Metrics. You should get subscribed to Minor Metrics. Chris is amazing. It's just not live, so I'll retweet what I see, but yeah. Oh, you did send me, right, yes. I did not feature it because it was not my graph and I didn't want to steal the thunder. Heck, open. Seriously. But I like featuring graphs. I like having other people do graph porn. Oh, so Grash is asking about the FanFest augmented reality game. Because they're doing some big lore-based, what is it? LARPy style thing. I don't know if that's going to have market impacts. I know the lore guys are just eating it up. And again, sorry, all the people who keep writing us about hydrostatic. It's not coming back. Really sorry. Maybe if I'm particularly drunk on April Fools, I'll release why. So I'm interested to see what they do with it, and I might have to see which of the lore guys are going to be there. I don't know if Web Spaceships is going, but I mean, that guy tweets like a fucking maniac, so that's who I'd follow. I mean, we'll see how it goes. I'm interested to see what happens. I mean, I haven't been in the lore circles since since we stopped doing hydrostatic, so I am not the guy to talk about it anymore, unfortunately, but yeah. So, Angry Red Gummy Bear is asking for more information on my Tech 2 rant that as prices fall, we may see more Tech 2 consumption. So it's possible. And I don't want to say it's not healthy. Like, I think that cheap Tech 2 ships is not a technically bad thing. I am worried for how much labor it takes to make them, that if we eat a lot of margin in them, that it'll sort of evaporate the one decent piece of the industry market. But like, that's just me being protectionist. So the thing that has me sort of playing devil's advocate for the they'll be consumed more argument is that the requirements to fly Tech 2 effectively are pretty high, and where switching Tech 1 metas or switching battleship metas or switching faction ship metas is relatively easy and relatively cheap in skill points, the Tech 2 ends up being a much bigger investment. So I think there's a couple of other headwinds that keep Tech 2 from being used super widely. But like, let's say that the margins on ships were halved. Like the cost between the Tech 1 and Tech 2 difference was halved. So like, you talk about Black Ops being 400 million and Marauders being 500 million and Heavy Interdictors being 150 million. Well, that gets a little interesting, right? I still think they're a little bit high for the utility to really hit that sweet spot of like really wide adoption. But it definitely makes the markets more interesting and makes the tactical choices more interesting from a large fleet perspective. But like, for instance, I don't really want to see bombers get much cheaper, for instance. Like I'm happy to see the heavy assault cruisers, the heavy interdictors, the E-war platforms. I'm happy to see those get cheap, but like a 7 million-esque electronic attack frigate, I'm not as happy about that, right? Like I'm a little more on the bottom end of that spectrum. I get a little more worried that you're washing out the lower end when the higher end gets better. So again, it's not necessarily evil. The prices of anything are just what they are. Like it's the end of a very complicated nonlinear equation. So I'm happy to see where we go. Like I've never really decried that low mineral prices are evil. Just that nobody believes me that, like, well, what if supers are 10 billion-esque instead of 20? What if Titans are 50 billion-esque instead of 100? What does that say to your engagement spectrum? And they're still pretty expensive. And it's still, space upper class. But like 10 billion-esque supers isn't that space upper class, right? Like, now we start talking about putting it much more in range of the general public. And still have the supply chain problem, but like you make those suitably cheap enough, and the engagement ladder gets more filled out. So sky isn't falling. I'm worried. I'm allowed to be worried. But like if you brought Marauders down to 400 or 500 million-esque a pop, that puts them at 50% more than a Macarial, and you get that sniping bonus and the blinking bonus, like, you could do some real damage if you weren't paying $1 billion a pop for those things, right? Like, I've always been interested in seeing stuff like Marauders used in gangs of 20 plus, or seeing Black Ops used in much more tactical uses other than just a portable hole. So, yeah. Well, I don't know if we can talk about, so David Kong is asking, so with summer to fall usually being the time for the big wars null happening, have you noticed any market movements that suggest war prep? I haven't seen anything that suggests anybody prepping for war. Our canary in the coal mine is strontium, since that is what drives Sov warfare. Additionally, we watch not interdictors. Bombers is another good canary to watch because they're a very useful ship. They're just needed in like such higher droves to go do that. So the I haven't seen any headwinds, and I haven't seen enough shit posting to really think that anybody's going to get butt mad enough to fight each other. So I think we need another big war. I think a lot of people are just sitting on their hands, and I'm really hoping that drilling platforms drive some more people into the streets. Like, I'm really glad about the Rourke change that adds kill mails for the drones. Because that gives more incentive to hunt them and more incentive to cause damage in the meantime. So I'm glad to see that. And yeah, we'll end up seeing. Well, and Angry Red Gummy Bear is right about Bastion makes them useless since they get no remote reps, but like, it's just a bigger, meaner version of the Slippery Pete, right? Like, your rep is the blink button. So I'm hopeful. I'm always willing to give the benefit of the doubt. But I also believe in greed, which I just don't know if there's enough dynamism to, like, the amount of people who rent is like one of those stats that pisses me off. That so many people just pay their dues to their shitheel masters and act as serfs just to suck down Esk. Pisses me off. And the fact that everybody's just willing to sit there being fat and happy and not really trying to break anything, like, sure as hell starts to feel like Tranquility. Not Tranquility. Whatever the Chinese server is. Fuck. Where we just have three mega corporations who have divvied up the spoils and agreed to cartel things. So it just, like, I hate working for people in a video game, right? Like, and this is me, unfortunately. Like, so here's your rant of the show, is that I am more than happy to work with people, but I fucking hate working for people for fake space money. Like, nothing makes me feel like a bitch faster than having to sit there grinding ISK so somebody else can get fat off my stuff. And it's why I never really loved the Null Bear lifestyle, because as much as I loved hanging out with the leadership in a lot of those Null operations, as much as those guys tend to be the best and brightest, man, there are just some shitheel middle managers in Soft Null that really just suck the fun out of it and are just trying to be kings of a shitty sandcastle and think they're so fucking smart and just are just as much bears as the high sec guys they shit all over. And it pisses me off. Like I've done my stints. I've been there and I get why people do it and I get the communities and whatever. So if it's your deal and you're happy, go for it. But I can't do it. I just can't fucking do it. To be so subservient, to be just a frickin' cog, pisses me off. And it doesn't help that a lot of it turns into alpha male dick measuring. So that's the other piece of it that ruins my time, is that as soon as we start trying to measure dicks on the internet, I'm fucking out, because Jesus. But like, if you're going to go spend all of your time in a fake internet game and you're just going to be a serf, like, why bother? Why not go do something else with your time if you're just going to make somebody else rich? Like, why? I get that, like, Titan dropping on targets is fun once in a while, but like every night, and to keep up your frickin' pap links and your stats and whatever, so that you can keep in the club and grinding for somebody else. Like, just hate it. And to be a renter corp where you just aspire to be the best serfs. Just like, why? I guess if you really just want to own a little piece of land and you're fine being a renter, that's fine. But you could do so much better. It's like, why can't we have wage growth IRL? And it's because nobody values labor. Nobody values their own labor. We're all just happy to have whatever we have. And don't rock the fucking boat. Don't try to get more. I'm going to get political. Like, what's the point of playing a fake internet game if you're not going to use the chance to fail spectacularly? Like, ISK is so fucking cheap. Why wouldn't you shoot for the stars to go be the meanest space pirate or the biggest industrialist or whatever? Like, why wouldn't you climb those mountains? Why would you be complacent? So I just think renting's a raw deal. I think a lot of people are getting a raw deal and they don't dare stand up for something better. And it's the same limp dick thing I hear about why we can't ask for raises at work. And it bothers me. Like, you can't get anything unless you actually work for it, try for it, fight for it. If you're just gonna take what you're given, you're not gonna get given very much. And Giuseppe in Twitch says that since the show's been running tonight, he's made $7 billion in wormhole sites. So yeah, like, go do something fun. Go own something. Like, there's no better place to bet big, to win big and lose big. And frankly, losing big makes just as good as stories as winning big. So, and EVE is all about the stories and the players you play with. So, like, use it. EVE is the worst single player game. which is why I'm in such trouble right now, is that I've been space homeless for so long that that I'm having a hard time staying connected. So but with that, looks like we're getting to the end of our time slot. I want to thank everybody who tuned in live. If you have more questions that we didn't answer, if you want to just if you want to talk shop and we didn't get to your question, if you don't want to ask it in public because you think it's too brilliant or too stupid, I'm not sure which, do join our Discord. You can PM me on there. It is I do try to stay open for people to talk with and talk at. That's the best place to get in touch with me. I do still check all of the other platforms. Even some people somehow get my contact information through Facebook, and so every once in a while I get a Facebook message and I'm like, I don't get to it for a month, and I feel like a super asshole. But yeah, it's I do try to keep in touch with everybody. I do try to keep on top of things. I am hoping that, so I'm looking to get a couple of blogs out. I've got one in the queue for Medium on Python for tomorrow. I'm trying to write up the Profit Dev blog and make it interesting, which is hard. I keep hitting 800 words and I don't say anything, and I have to scrap the whole fucking thing. So, because I try to make it, I make this too hard on myself. I try to make it interesting for as many people as possible. And like, I'm super excited about like, and then I fixed this thing, and then I had to do this weird Flask design thing, and ha ha ha, fuck that documentation. And everyone's like, we don't give a fuck, Locke. How do I make money? How does this make me money? And I'm like, well, you query the REST API, and then it gives you a prediction, and then you decide whether you're going to trade on that prediction or not. But yeah, and I'm sort of waiting for Adam for Eve to get back to me with, okay, I put it into the thing, now what? So so again, and if you are a dev and you wanted access to the profit stuff, if you want the prediction stuff, do give me a call. I'm not gating it because I'm a turbo dick. I'm gating it because there's performance problems, and I'd rather work with devs who understand that that's a problem than people are going to try to put it into GDoc and get mad because it's not going to go into GDoc well. We'll see if we can get some of the performance stuff fixed, and like I'm hoping that we can loop back around in like 3 months after I collect some data and preload like the top 100 items would be a way to do it. But until then, I like, we're just calling it an alpha for now. If you really want it and you just don't want to listen to me talk you out of it, you can still call me and I'll still give you a key. But yeah, I also made it so you could deploy it anywhere. Like, you can install it. You don't need databases, which is the great thing about it. So I'm going to write up a whole blog about it. It's going to be super amazing, super interesting, for me, at least. I don't know how many other people follow me for the Python stuff, because I'm super interested in it. And I know for a lot of people, it's just, he's talking about words, and I have no idea what he's saying. So, yeah. So again, thank you everybody who tuned in. We will be back next week. Again, if there are any questions you didn't get answered, do join the Discord. And do check out Minor Metrics. Links should be down in the doobly-doo. Get subscribed. And yeah, thank you everybody. So